In the second year it becomes a bit more specialised and you get to pick some more niche modules or modules that focus in on smaller areas of history.
This year I really enjoyed historiography, so it's one of the core modules for all second year students who are doing straight history, and it's so interesting. You're learning the history of history. It's fascinating that you get to learn the themes of historians and the different ways that you can interpret history and the ways you can study history, and it's just in one module. I find it so interesting.
Favourite modules this year has been historiography. I think it is really challenging and very philosophical, and it really encourages you to think about more than just basic plain history.
So the British problem is fundamentally about questions of British identity during the early modern period.
I studied the British problem last year, and the thing that drew me towards the module was that it kind of encapsulated all types of British issues. So we looked at Scotland, Ireland, Wales and England, and we kind of looked at it from different thematic lenses. So from a political end, from an economic end, from a social end, and kind of from a religious end as well. It kind of just brings out all the issues that we have today. If you think about things like Brexit, they're all kind of rooted in the early modern period.
My favourite module that I studied was a global history of football, which was a second year module that lasted the first term. I really enjoyed it because it was putting history, which I enjoy and study, with football, which is one of my biggest interests and passions, and it was about applying the things that you're interested in learning to something that you don't think about in an academic way, because when I watch the football, I just watch the football. But by learning about it, you consider it from a whole different light and all sorts of new aspects that you hadn't considered beforehand, and it meant that I was really engaged with it and really enjoyed it as a result.
I teach a module in the second year called Science in the Modern World, and in it we examine the history of how modern science and technology came to be from the late 18th century to today. So that's things like how genetics was invented, how the internet came to be developed, how climate science became such an important part of our modern world.
Favourite module in second year has been individual polis and society, and it's because we sort of had to look at the three different ways how society was affected, and whether it was through sort of individual actions or the political structures or the cultural and social aspects of it.
So my favourite module from second year was the Race, Ethnicity and Migration in Modern Britain module. So some of my favourite topics from that module were the Irish migration topic. So we looked at Irish migrants coming into Britain in the late 19th century and early 20th century, which I found really interesting as I've studied Irish history before but never from a British perspective. And another one of my favourite topics was looking actually at Brexit, which was really interesting as that had a really modern day perspective.